All right, welcome to the debut episode of On Fire Fantasy, a part of the Old Man Squad Fantasy Sports Network. I'm your host, Jacob Dunne. You can find me on Twitter at Ain't Done Yet, and Dunne is spelled Dunne. And you can find all of my fantasy basketball content over at Fantrax. Today, we're breaking down On Fire players, ice cold players, and streamer spotlights. AKA, there's only one team that has 3 more games left this week. So stay tuned to see who this team is because there's a lot of players to stream on this squad. But first, I just want to thank you all for tuning in. I've been in this industry for just over 5 years, and I've never had the opportunity to host my own show until Dan Bespris came to me with this chance, and I couldn't say no. I guess Dan wanted a points league specialist, and I met that criteria. I also guested on a lot of Dan's shows because he wanted some points league content. And thankfully, I was his go-to guy. So when he came to me with this opportunity, I had to jump on it. Guesting on his shows over the past few years has been some of the highlights of my fantasy career. So Dan, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much for your wonderful audience who is tuning in. Thank you so much. I can't wait to dive in and to give you all this content to help you win your league. But first, really quickly before we dive in, the inspiration for On Fire Fantasy comes from my love of retro video games, especially NBA Jam. Yes, he's on fire. Boom, shakalaka. These are 2 of my all-time favorite phrases to yell out. Seriously, I will yell these out anywhere, like not just when I'm playing or watching basketball, but I'll even yell it at the grocery store. I don't even care. I just love it. So when Dan asked if I wanted to run my own show, I knew it just had to have that NBA Jam flair, and I think we nailed it. Well, enough with the pleasantries. Let's get down to business. Shout out Mulan. All right, so now here's a quick caveat. On Fire players are those rostered in under 40% of Yahoo leagues. These are guys who are criminally under rostered and need to be added to your team ASAP. Now, the ice cold players, on the other hand, are those early round draft picks who are struggling right now. I'll tell you exactly who to buy low, who to sell high, and which team to stream for the rest of the week. All right. But for that part, you'll have to listen to find out. All right. So first up, we got he's on fire. All right. We got Kelly Oubre, Ryan Rollins, Jeremy Grant, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and Quentin Grimes. These guys are rostered in between 28% to about 38% of Yahoo leagues. And they are literally scorching right now, and they need to be on your team before someone else scoops them up, because these guys not only are playing well right now, but they have the opportunity to produce like this for the rest of the season. So saying that, I'm going to share my screen so that I can convince you to pick these guys up, because I can't just tell you, hey, pick these guys up because they're awesome. I want to prove to you why you should pick these guys up. So let's go to the He's on Fire list. I'm going to add to the stage. All right, here's this list. Now, you're probably thinking, why is Kaishan George on this list? He is rostered in 53% of Yahoo leagues. That's just me telling you to, if he's available in your league, to pause this video, click another tab, and go add him to your league, because this guy is legit. If you look at his game log, he has been incredible, literally playing out of his mind. And this is just his second year in the NBA. And he's the 13th ranked player in points leagues on Yahoo. And before this season, he was maybe a late round flyer to undrafted. So the first thing that's promising is the minutes, 32, 35, 25, and 40. The only time that he got 25 was in a blowout against the Hornets. But he still gave you 20 fantasy points, which is such a nice floor to have. So if he's available in your league, pick him up, because look at what he's capable of. Against the Dallas Mavericks, he put up 63 fantasy points. I mean, incredible. All right, so let's get down to business. We got Jaime Jaquez Jr., and I am very high on him. As a rookie, he showed flashes of brilliance. Like there was such an uproar that the Miami Heat just keep hitting on these mid first round guys. Like they hit on him, and then they hit on Khalil Ware. But Jaime Jaquez had a poor sophomore season, so all of his hype just died down heading into his third year. But he is quickly proving that he just needed some time to progress. And as you can see on here, he hasn't played less than 27 minutes in any game this season, hasn't scored less than 13 points this season, while contributing in rebounds and assists and some steals. I mean, this is a guy who should get no less than 25 minutes per game the rest of the season, has experience and potential to be even better than this. Now, I know that this is all coming off the heels of Tyler Hero being injured and Norman Powell as well. But I think for the time being, you need to, at the very least, stream him while those guys are hurt, with the notion that he might stick on your team if he is just that inevitable and Eric Spoelstra wants to play the hot hand. Perhaps he can just keep his sixth man role, and dominate, even when Tyler Hero and Norman Powell return. Now, I get that there is some risk, because the more usage you have, the better you are in points league, because you have such a safe floor and you can provide those stats for your team. But at least for the time being, add him right now, with the chance that he sticks on your team even when those two guys come back, which we don't really know when they will. So might as well add him and see what happens, and let your fantasy team benefit in the meantime. And next up, I wanted to highlight Ryan Rollins. I am enamored with this guy. This guy has it. I was watching him. He passes the eye test. He has grit. He has moxie. And if you don't know what that word means, look it up, because it's a fun word to use. It's kind of like an old-fashioned retro word, but Ryan Moxie Rollins, ever since every single game, he has gotten better. Look at these fantasy points. He went from 22 to 31 to 37 to 43. At this rate, he's going to go to 49, 56, 63. And from here, he might even have a 100-point fantasy game by the end of next week. Maybe that'll be 3 weeks. I don't know. I can't do math right now. I don't know. But I'm a huge fan. And ever since Kevin Porter went down, he has been dominating. And he has a ton of usage on a Milwaukee Bucks team that is void of playmakers. After Giannis, who do we have? Gary Trent Jr., Miles Turner, who's not been playing very good to start the season. Like, Ryan Rollins seems to be the second option in that offense, and that proved true last game against the Knicks, where he scored 25 points, still got 4 dimes and 4 steals. Look at those steals. 2 steals, 3 steals, 3 steals, 4 steals. I mean, this is like a Dyson Daniels level breakout we are witnessing right now. And that's all because Kevin Porter got hurt and we got to see what Rollins could do. So this is another guy who maybe when Kevin Porter comes back, his usage will go down and maybe he'll even lose a starting spot. But my prediction is that Ryan Rollins keeps his starting spot. He's just too good to revert back to the bench and only play 18 minutes per game. No, he's too good for that. I feel like it'll be the reverse. Kevin Porter will play 15 to 18 minutes a game. Ryan Rollins will stick to his 25 to 30 minutes per game. And he's going to be one of those guys we look back towards the end of the year and say he is a waiver wire dandy. Like, man, I wish I would have picked him up right now. And he's available in 72% of Yahoo leagues. So make the move. That's all I got to say. Next, I want to bring up Jeremy Grant. And I feel like Jeremy Grant has been forgotten by the fantasy community on purpose, just because over the past few seasons, it feels like he always is always being shut down. Now, that's twofold. It's his injuries, but it's also the Blazers are always out of playoff contention. Well, this year, the Blazers are starting off decently. They're 2-2. So it's possible with the additions of Drew Holiday and whenever Damian Lillard comes back, if the Blazers are even close to sniffing the play-in game, then there's no reason to shut down Jeremy Grant. And then even if the Blazers kind of fall out of playoff contention, I think that this is the year that they will finally trade him to a contender to try to get something out of him before he gets too old and out of his prime, because he's showing that he is still in the middle of his prime. He's healthy and he hasn't scored less than 17 points in any game this season. He hasn't played less than 28 minutes in any game. It's crazy. He has a pattern of playing 28 minutes in one game where he played 29, 28, 28, 29, and 28. And he is making the most out of those minutes, scoring, providing some rebounds, some assists, stealing the ball, and with some blocks. I mean, like, he is contributing across the board, which is not bad for a guy who was barely drafted on fantasy draft day and almost forgotten and left for dead, basically. So I would definitely pounce on him and just ride the hot hand one. But as long as he's getting 28 plus minutes per game, he should be rostered in 100% of leagues. Next, we're gonna go to a couple of Sixers here, starting with Kelly Oubre, who was kind of forgotten too and left for dead, just because I think that people have fatigue on Oubre. You know, he's been on a few different teams over the past few years. You know, he's not super exciting, but what he is getting right now, it needs to be taken seriously. I mean, he has not played less than 34 minutes in any single game. You know, he hasn't scored less than 10 points in any game. Over the last 2 games, he's grabbed at least 10 rebounds. He's getting steals and some blocks. I mean, like, he's contributing across the board too. And you know, the game before Washington, he accumulated 52 fantasy points, and then he followed that up with 36 fantasy points. So he is definitely scorching right now, needs to be rode until the wheels fall off or until Paul George comes back. But even when Paul George comes back, I would still keep Kelly Oubre because, 1, I don't trust Paul George to stay healthy. And 2, I feel like when Paul George comes back, it's going to be a similar situation to Joel Embiid, where he's going to be restricted to 20 minutes a game. Now, if I were the Sixers, I would probably restrict Podcast P to like 15 minutes a game, because those knees is just a ticking time bomb. So grab the healthy Sixer players like Kelly Oubre Jr., who's getting massive minutes. And then another Sixer who's getting massive minutes off the bench is Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes, as you guys remember last year, when the Sixers traded for him from the Mavs, he went ballistic. He was on fire. Like, he probably won a lot of people their fantasy leagues. And now he's coming off the bench for the Sixers, which it seems to be working, because he has scored 18 fantasy points, which was kind of just, you know, it was fine. But then he scored 31 fantasy points, and then 22, which was fine, and then blew up for 48. So I feel like that's going to be his MO. He's either going to give you a safe line, or he's going to blow up, which is a recipe for success in fantasy points leagues for sure. So those are all of my must adds. He's on fire: Kelly Oubre, Ryan Rollins, Jeremy Grant, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and Quentin Grimes. So if they are available, I would definitely add them. All right, so next up, we got ice cold. I'm talking frigid. Like, I'm chilly just thinking about these players, just looking at these players. Like, I need a jacket. I don't know why I'm just wearing a shirt right now. Like, I need a jacket. Let's dive into why Cooper Flagg is on this list, and Jakob Hurtel, Dyson Daniels, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Amen Thompson are on this list. All right, let me share my screen with you guys. And Christmas. It's Halloween season. Come on, Jacob. No one's going to watch your show after that. All right, let's see. What do we have here? All right, we got. Yep, here we go. Here is my list of ice cold players. We're going to start with Amen Thompson. And the reason why he's ice cold to me, which is crazy because in the middle of me talking about him being ice cold, he's actually going off against the Raptors, which I knew he would. But he before that, he was like switching off between like fine games and then a dud against the Pistons and then a fine game against the lowly Nets. And now he's going off in Toronto, which is a great sign. Before he played the Raptors, I was going to tell you to buy low. And you still could buy low right now, but I don't expect Amen Thompson to stay down for too long. And as you can see in the Raptors game with 2 minutes left, he's definitely doing well. He still hasn't hit that ceiling. So I think you still could buy low on him. But I expect his points to be above 20 moving forward, like averages above 20, rebounds hovering around 7 to 8, assists around 5 to 6, and steals. I mean, like, this is pretty much the average line that I expect him to have moving forward. And I mean average line, not just like a blow up line. Like these are the types of nights that I expect moving forward, if not even better. So I still think that you could buy low on him, considering he was taken in the second or third round of fantasy drafts. So definitely try to buy low on him. Next up on the list, I want to highlight Jakob Hurtel. And, I'm not mad at him. I'm just extremely disappointed. Just mainly because I touted him as like a perennial draft day steal, because he for the past few years he's usually been going in the middle to late rounds, and it's crazy because he always provides decent points, but elite rebounds and elite blocks, which is good for upper 20s, mid 30 fantasy points. Like he got enough usage. But I think the problem is that the Raptors have too many shooters. So Jakob Hurtel isn't generating his own offense. He's just, like hoping for an offensive rebound and put it back in. But you can't really bank on that in points leagues. In points leagues, we need usage. And Jakob Hurtel isn't seeing any usage. Now, he did go down with a back injury. And as you can see right here, he's currently not playing against the Rockets right now because of that back injury. So for me, I'm willing to have him sit on my roster to see. Hopefully he plays the next game or soon after that, or he gets IL eligible. That would be very helpful. But for now, I'm holding just to see if he can turn it around. Now, for me, I would rather hold and see if he can bounce back and sell high. I think I am out on Jakob Hurtel. I think that he needs to go. So when he comes back and let's say he gets a 10 point, 14 rebounds, 3 block game, sell him, ship him off right then and there, because there's going to be a manager that's going to bite. That's going to be like, okay, here's the Jakob Hurtel that we know and love. And I think that game will be an anomaly. And I am willing to trade him for anyone who's playing similarly, who has like mid-round value. And of course, you can always ask me questions on Twitter or X, if you want specific advice on who you think you should go after. But yeah, so my advice is if you drafted him, just sit him. Or if you have an IL plus spot, that's perfect. But if you only have IL spots or even then just wait and see. Next up is Dyson Daniels, and this is another player that I am also disappointed in, just because of that insane year that he had last year, where he was a steals machine. Now that is still the case, as you can see here: 2 steals, 1 steal, 3 steal, 2 steals. Now it's not Ryan Rollins level of thievery, but he's still getting it done there, which is why he's even staying relevant. which is crazy because he was being taken in the 4th and 5th round of points leagues fantasy drafts, and he's just disappointing. But I have a theory, and that's Jalen Johnson. If you remember last year, Jalen Johnson, after 20 games, he was hit with the season-ending injury, which forced Dyson Daniels to step up and to take on more of a scoring load, instead of just focusing on defense like the Hawks traded him for from the Pels last year. And so now that Jalen Johnson is back, his offensive responsibility has gone down. Therefore, his production has gone down. So to me, he is definitely a wait and see, because if you try to trade him right now, you're going to get pennies on the dollar that you spent on draft day. So I would just wait around and see if he can either pick up his shooting, because he is a terrible shooter. As you can see, last game he went 1 for 8, and that's kind of his MO. Like that was his MO coming out of the G League. He's just not a good shooter, but he's an excellent defender, and he's dynamic. It's just that he can't shoot from the field. So I would just say to ride the wave. You spent big on draft day. Unless someone is willing to give you someone who has like 5th, 6th, or 7th round value, I would hold and see if he has a blow up game. Like maybe Jalen Johnson misses a game or two and he's forced to put on more of a scoring load. He puts on a show. I would try to sell high right then and there. And let's see. There's 2 more people on this list. Let's go with Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, he had an incredible game to start off the season. And this came off the heels of, we weren't sure if Jaren Jackson Jr. was coming back to start the season, because his injury initially said that he was going to be week to week, maybe miss the first few weeks of the season. Then all of a sudden, I think a week before the season started, the Grizzlies surprised us. I guess Christmas came early and said JJJ is expected to debut, is expected to play in game 1, which was excellent. And he went off. 18 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 6 blocks. That's incredible. But then he's kind of come down to earth. He got a 27 fantasy point game, 19, 27 again. So we're missing the blocks. And I'm not sure if he's still hampered by that injury. But for the most part, he's better than this. And he will turn it around. So right now is the perfect time to buy low on JJJ. All right. So I would buy low on him. And then lastly, let's go to Cooper Flagg, everyone's favorite rookie, everyone's fantasy darling. I saw a lot of people reach for him in drafts this year just because they wanted a piece of that Cooper Flagg pie. But he hasn't lived up to the billing. He hasn't been a complete bust by any means. 22 fantasy points, 34, 35, but then he definitely busted against OKC with 10. And now he's not doing too hot to start the Pacers game, but that doesn't matter. There's still plenty of game left. But all of that to say, he has been dealing with left shoulder soreness. And also he's just getting acclimated to the NBA game and the speed and the pace. So I think that fantasy managers who spent up on him on draft day need to hold him, because again, we don't want to get pennies for the dollar that we spent on draft day. And we know that Cooper Flagg is better than this. He just has to get adjusted to the NBA speed. Okay. So definitely try to either hold and cross your fingers or buy low. If you can buy low, go ahead, but don't sell, because you would just be selling low. We never sell low. We either hold and wait for a huge game and then sell, or just hold and just, and like once they do have that breakout game, see if it sticks. All right. So that is what I have for you for the ice cold players. Here they are again: Cooper Flagg, Jakob Poeltl, Dyson Daniels, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Amen Thompson. All right. So next up on this list, Here it is, the Charlotte Hornets, the only NBA team to have 3 more games in week 2. The Charlotte Hornets, starting Thursday. So if you're watching this on Thursday, October 30th, starting tonight, the Hornets are the only team to play 3 games the rest of the week. And if you're in a league that does the daily tomorrow ads, I'm sorry that you can't pick up the Hornets for tonight's game, but keep them in mind if you are making an ad Friday night and need someone back-to-back Saturday, Sunday, because they're the only team. They are the only team that go back-to-back Saturday and Sunday. So the first person that I want to highlight here is Colin Sexton. And let's go. I'm going to present my screen and show you the Hornets here. All right, so Colin Sexton. Let's go add. Colin Sexton has been incredible. And we all know that if he gets minutes, he's going to score. He's going to produce fantasy points. Points, rebounds, and assists is his MO with very little steals. This year, though, he's been pretty consistent with steals other than his last game. He got 1 steal, and 2 steals, which is great. That's just bonus. But where he's going to make his money is in the points, where he scored 15 points, 21, 20, and 18. So he hasn't scored less than 15 minutes to start out the season. He is hot right now, and he's coming off the bench for a Hornets team that is in dire need of playmakers and scorers. And Colin Sexton fits that bill. So if he is available and you need someone to play 3 more games this week, definitely add him and don't think twice. All right, so next up on this list is Con Newpel, the rookie out of Duke. So Con Newpel started off very slow, only 16 fantasy points in each of his first 2 games, but his last 2 games, he has scored over 30 fantasy points. And even though he's a sharp shooter, he still contributes in rebounds and assists and some steals, but don't count on those steals. But at the very least, he can be, he'll provide for these last 3 games. He'll provide you at least 25 fantasy points each game, which can definitely swing a matchup. So definitely think about adding him if Colin Sexton is not available. Next up on this list is Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton, rookie. Got the starting gig right out of the gate, which says a lot about how the Hornets view him. And he apart from this one game against Washington, he's been solid. He scored 26 fantasy points, 28 fantasy points, and then 10, and then 29 fantasy points. So he's slowly getting acclimated to the speed of the NBA game, but also his minutes have been solid. 27 minutes, 26 minutes, 22 in what was kind of a blowout win, and then 31. And so if you need a solid, safe floor guy, he's starting, and that's one of the things that we need in points leagues. We need someone who has a safe floor with minutes. The more minutes you get, the better chance you have of accumulating fantasy points. That's the name of the game. And Ryan Kalkbrenner is getting that right now. So definitely think about adding him. Now, the rest of this list are guys for deep, deep leagues. Okay. So Musa. All right. I looked up how to actually pronounce his last name. So it is Diabate. Here we go. So now you can quiz your friends and say, how do you say this guy's last name? And be like, Diabate. All right. So this guy was in the running to start, but Ryan Kalkbrenner beat him to that honor. But that doesn't mean that he can't provide at least, 15 to 20 fantasy points for the next 3 games, which is valuable in deeper leagues. So I would definitely give him a shot because he has the ceiling of this Brooklyn game with 27 fantasy points and this Washington game with 30 fantasy points. Now it looks like his floor is 12 fantasy points, which is fair. Even if it's 12, even if he scores 12 fantasy points for the next 3 games, that's 36 fantasy points. I think that's fine in deep leagues, but there's no way that he only scores 12, 3 in a row. I think at least one of those games, he's going to get 30 plus fantasy points. So he does have upside. And then these last 2 are just super deep league ones, but Trey Mann has always been a good scorer when given the minutes. I know it doesn't look like this, but he does have the upside for 22 fantasy points or 25 fantasy points. Now, his floor is kind of disgusting. I'm not going to lie to you. There's 5 fantasy points and 10 fantasy points. So just proceed with caution there. But in a super deep league, why not? And then we got Zion James, and he is a mix between Zion Williamson and LeBron James. We got Zion James. That's how good he is. Or perhaps that's just what his name sounds like. I'm joking. But he is a rookie, and he's fine. And I think he's doing well with the minutes that he's getting. He's just not getting a lot. But last game, he did get a season-high 23 minutes, so it's possible that they are upping his minutes, especially with Josh Green and Brandon Miller out. He should continue to get at least 18 minutes moving forward, which could – his ceiling is 26 fantasy points, but as you can see, his floor is 12, 12.8, 12.9, 26.5, 14.6. So my guess is that he probably averages around 15 fantasy points for the next 3 games, but in a deep league, that's nothing to sniff at, like he might as well. And he does have upside. So yes, those are my streamers for the rest of the week, with the Hornets playing, the only team playing 3 games for the rest of the week. And yeah, all right, there you have it. All right, so we got our He's on Fire ice cold players, and the Charlotte Hornets being the only team with 3 games left for the rest of the week starting Thursday, which is very valuable. And also, if you can't play them on Thursday, then you can play them back-to-back Saturday and Sunday, all right, because they're the only team that goes back-to-back on those days. But there you have it, the debut episode of On Fire Fantasy. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Man, I need a little sip of this NBA Jam coffee, you know what I'm saying? All right, full disclosure, it's water, because I'm recording this at night, and there's no way I'm drinking coffee at night. But thank you so much for tuning in again. I will be back next Wednesday, and my hope is to do a show every Wednesday to help you finish your week strong, to tell you who's hot, who's cold, and who to stream. Sometimes it won't be just labeling one team to stream, but it was just so easy to get the Charlotte Hornets to stream them just because they're the only team in the league that plays 3 more times this week. So I will definitely have all this information for you every single week. Please come back every week. Please comment who your favorite pickup is. If you were able to pick up any of these guys, I would love to hear who you picked up. And if you want to follow me, I am on Twitter or X at Ain't Dunne Yet, and Dunne is spelled D-U-N-N-E. Next week is actually, on top of He's on Fire, Ice Cold, and Streamers, I'm also going to go over my rest of season rankings, which I will have that published next Tuesday on Fantrax. So if you follow me on Twitter, then I will post those rankings, those rest of season rankings over on X. So feel free to give me a follow. Please subscribe to the Old Man Squad. Please subscribe and comment, please. We appreciate it. We appreciate you, and good luck the rest of your week, and God bless.